what I'm going to start with is importing a file here. In order to do that, in Animate, File, Import, you can import to Stage or import to Library. I'll show you what the library is, but I'm going to import to Stage. And so I already have my images here. These are actually layered PSD files. So now on this screen here, it's triggering me to pay attention to this file, and this is the children's 1 PSD file. What I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to flatten the Photoshop layers into a single bitmap, and I'm going to hit OK. So I got that on the shoe layer 1 that I want, and I'm going to do a shoe layer 2. I'm just going to go into my library and then drag a shoe out, place it. It's going to be super huge, and I'm just going to adjust the size again. Zoom out, grab the shoe where it ended up going, pull it onto the stage area here, and then I'm going to do a new layer again. Just repeat the process. Alright, so I got all my shoes ready. I'm going to actually hide 2 of the shoes, and I'm going to leave one on the board here. Control click to it, and then convert it to a symbol. What you want to do is convert items to symbols that you're going to want to make into buttons or movie clips. Movie clips are really objects that you're going to be animating later on, or you can put animations within the item. Essentially, I'm going to go convert to symbol, and movie clip symbol it is. I'm going to name it though, because eventually you might want to have this become a button, and the way ActionScript works is it calls the movie clip or the button name and applies that in the properties palette, and then you can use ActionScript to actually call out that item and give it some kind of action. So I'm just going to really call it Children's Shoe 1. I'm going to copy this name, and I'll hit OK. And over here in the Properties palette, I'm going to paste the same name that I created for the clip. So as you can see, it's Children's Shoe 1 here in the Properties palette. And now I'm really ready to work with this thing. So what I want to do is actually show a basic masking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this second shoe. I'm going to control click it, and I'm going to convert it again to a symbol. Call it basically the same thing, except with the number 2 next to it. Movie clip. Okay. Make sure in the properties palette I'll do the same thing. This just makes it so much easier once you make all these names right up front, so you don't have to get any error messages. Really, I'm just going to move the second shoe directly over the first shoe. It snaps into place, and then in the layers palette, I'm just going to grab shoe 2 and pull it under shoe 1. Now I'm going to build a mask over shoe 1, so that as I animate, it's going to hide the shoe on top to reveal the shoe beneath. I'm going to create a new layer over Children's Shoe 1, and I'm going to place an object in there, and I'm going to make it show up right away. So it's going to show up on frame 1. And once I draw this object, it's basically going to be a box here. I'm going to actually convert this graphic shape into a movie clip symbol, so I can start animating this. Convert it to symbol here. Let's see, mask shape 1. I'll hit OK. And then I have mask shape 1 here. I'm gonna just name it in here. Mask shape 1, so we're all straight on that. And I'm gonna hit this last keyframe here. Turns out to be 69. I'm going to insert a blank keyframe into that area. Actually, no, I'm going to insert a keyframe because I really just want a copy of what I just created on that layer. Now with this frame selected, I'm going to select the object. And I'm going to go to Modify, Transform. I'm going to free transform the shape. And I'm actually going to stretch it. But what happens is that it's going to stretch from the center right now. And so what I really want to do is actually stretch it from the left edge all the way to the right. So this little circle here really just lets me move the point, I guess the anchor point within the object. So I'm moving it to the left side here. And then now when I stretch, it's not stretching from both the left and right side, it's going to stretch from the left side. So now I'm going to stretch it completely over the object. And that's it. I'm going to click away, and I'm actually just going to go down here in my timeline and actually create that, that classic tween. And so what's happening is my box is stretching. However, it's stretching from the center between frame 1 and 68, but on 69 it's actually stretching from the left side. So what I have to do actually, and I don't have to remove this tween, but what I'm going to do is actually click on frame 1, and you can see my anchor point here is in the middle, and so that's what's kind of messing up my animation. So I'm going to click that and then move it over to the left, and then now it's completely fixed. So what this shape really is going to do is, as it animates, it's going to hide that blue shoe and show the layer underneath it. And the way that I'm going to make that happen is I'm going to go to this mask shape layer here, and I'm going to control click it, and then simply just make this layer into mask by clicking mask. Now, so what happened here is that it's actually revealing in the animation the blue shoe. So what I'd really want to do, actually, I want to do the reverse of that. So I can hit undo a few times. I'll remove this tween. And so what I want to actually do is have this box shape really be 100% across the board. And then this last frame, I want to bring this back here. And then I'll create the classic tween. And then go into my layer, make it a mask. And then so as I animate over it, it's gonna do that piece. So now really what my movie does is it does 3 shoes like this. So I can do this next layer, same exact process. It's really a new layer, create that image that I want to be masked over. You know what? I'm gonna hide this shoe just over the entire shoe. Double click this area, control clicking it, converting it to the symbol. It's a movie clip of mask 2. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and edit. Oops. Where's that? Modify. That's it. I'm gonna modify, free transform it, and make sure that this anchor point is on that one side here. That's fine, I'll leave it. Go down and make sure this is named as well. Jump over here to the end, insert that keyframe again. And so that made it a little easier because I had my anchor point already established there, so that's good. And then I'll create the classic tween again. And then finally, so this is going to go from left to right instead of right to left. Control click mask. And then now, since we don't have a shoe underneath, it's just completely gone. So I'll just grab that third shoe, make sure I bring it just one slide behind the background. Bring it up one, there we go. Make sure that my mask is good. Yep, that's working. So reveal that shoe. So essentially this shoe, I'm just gonna line it up with the green. So then as it animates, it'll reveal itself too. So you can, imagine you can take any kind of shape, like a floating circle, a spinning object, and then mask one thing over another to make some pretty complex things. You can even duplicate these layers too, if you wanted to here. So once you kind of have it built, it can get a little bit easier, but let me see. Effectively, I want to show these, and I'm going to hit return from frame 1 of my timeline just to show the speed of this animation and what's happening. So actually, these things are animating over on top of each other, so it's creating this crazy kind of effect. And ultimately, what I really want to do is do one right after the other. So essentially, what I would really do is go in the timeline here and then just say, okay, I'm really going to have this object or this animation happen, these two layers, after this animation is complete. So I'm just really selecting this whole entire line and just pulling it over and then making my movie just longer, really. And then this one too, since our second shoe is going to be animating and revealing shoe number 3, I want to make sure that shoe number 3 is directly underneath the animation of shoe number 2. Now I want to lock these up so I can see all my masks. So now what's happening is I need to make sure that my green shoe is underneath the blue shoe as it disappears. So in order to do that, I'm just going to take this image here, or this slide, and I'm just going to pull it all the way back. And then that'll fix it. So really you can see this bar basically just represents the image in its point of time. And so I want to make sure that that image is showing up behind that first layer. And that's kind of where you would just tweak your animation, the timing. So you can see it pretty much goes really, really slow to me right now. Maybe that's a good thing. I'm seeing that now my background is kind of disappearing, my header and stuff. So I want to make sure that I add a frame here in the header, down here in the timeline, insert frame. And so I can maintain all that stuff. I'm just going to take these shape layers and just kind of put them in a folder so I can kind of hide them from myself. I'm going to select all these just so I don't accidentally click on them and things get messed up. So I'll just call this like shoe animation or something. And I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm just going to call this one button. And this really is what I'll typically do is, let me grab these shoes. I'll just leave them there. So what I'll typically do is just do buttons in standard type. That's kind of how I built the first one. So um, button 1. I'm going to open up the type options here. So in my properties palette, I have my type selected, so I'm going to kind of click and drag to make this type a little smaller. I'm going to, excuse me, probably hit bold. Let's see, that's it for now. I'm going to make sure I grab my selection tool and drag that button type somewhere. I can size this up a little bit. So I have this type here. I'm going to actually control click that and then convert it again to a symbol. I'm going to make this a button symbol this time. This is going to be button 1. Hit OK. So button symbol 1, really, oh, you know what? I forgot to name it here, instance name. Instance name really is going to be used when the action script comes into play. So I'm just going to really just use the same name here. Actually, button 1 there. Okay. So now this is a button symbol. With a button symbol, just like even a movie clip symbol, I can double click the object and then kind of go into the symbol. If you will, I'll show you kind of how that, what that means really. Just make sure. Okay, so I'm going to double click this button, and then now I'm inside of this button. So I'm separated from the main stage timeline. Now I have a new timeline, and this timeline here is the timeline for the button. This comes into play a little bit more when you're dealing with movie clips. So I can go into a movie clip object and have an animation within the movie clip. So I can have an animation within an animation. But for a button, they're pretty straightforward. I have these options down here: up, over, down, and hit. Your up state is really the default state of the button. Your over state is the rollover. The down state is the look of the button when you have your finger clicked on it. So across the board, and this works basically exactly like the original timeline. So I can go to hit here, and this is really like the equivalent of frame 4, right, within this button. And I can insert a keyframe here. So this is really saying that when I'm hitting this button here, it's going to look like this keyframe. But when I'm up, over, and down, it's going to look basically like this, which is all black. So what I did in my file was I just inserted a keyframe over the over state, and then I went up to my artwork here with my state selected, and then I just changed the properties of the button. So I changed the color. I'll just make it like red. Okay. So now that's my over state. So when I go back, if I want to go back to my screen and get out of this button, I'm just going to hit scene 1. And so now this button has an over state to it. So what I'm going to do, and I can't really test that functionality right out of Animate here. So what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to do a save as on my desktop. Okay, and what I'm going to do is then test my movie. So what you do is you go to Control and then Test Movie. So there's a couple options here. You can test it in Animate, which is basically going to create an SWF file, and that SWF file will pop open on your machine, and you can kind of roll over it and test the functionality right there on your desktop. There's also another option in browser, and I really don't use this. I'll just use in Animate the default, and then once you have that, this is where you kind of select the way you want to test, and then this test button is actually when you're ready to test. And then when you retest and you don't have any of those errors, that's that's what you want. That's what you want to see. You'll know that um, that's not going to be an issue. So what's happening then is I'm really watching my flash file go over and over again, and it's basically starting and stopping over and over again. That's because I don't have any actions in it. If I had an action in it, it would, what I would do is put a stop action at the end of the timeline. I didn't want to show the actions yet, but I'll just do it real quick just to add the stop action. What I'm doing is actually going into these options here to have Flash create a stop action for me. Stop at this frame. I'll go over stop actions again. But really that creates that actions layer at the top for you. And you can see that there's an action on this keyframe with that little letter A at the end. So I'll save that and again retest it. So what you should see is the movie playing out and then stopping at the last frame. So now it's not cycling back over. You can also see that the button is still has a hover state to it, which is good. But now you can see that my mouse is kind of going in between the letters, and I'm losing the hyperlink functionality there, or clickability, I'll just call it for lack of a better word. And you can actually tweak that in your hit state within the button. So I'll just go ahead and close that. And then double click my instance of the button. And in this hit state here, I'm actually just going to draw a shape over the area that I want to have to become an active hit state. Then I'll just save it. So now my hit state on the button is wide. You notice that shape, you can't even see it. It's just invisible over that hit state.